I discovered my wife was cheating with her sister's husband. I never thought it would happen to me. We'd been together for 7 years, built a life, made plans for the future. I trusted her completely. That's what makes betrayal so devastating. It only works if there was trust first. When I confronted her, the living room felt impossibly small. The walls seemed to close in as I waited for her to speak, to explain, to deny it even. The silence stretched between us like a physical thing, heavy and suffocating. Her face changed from surprise to something harder, something I didn't recognize. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't shame. It was something closer to annoyance, like I'd interrupted something important. Her mother was there too. She'd been visiting for the weekend. She came downstairs when she heard our voices rising. Always inserting herself where she didn't belong. She'd never approved of me, always thought her daughter had settled. When she realized what we were arguing about, her mother screamed, "You brought this on yourself by being cold." Her words sliced through me like a blade, precise and devastating. Family should protect you, shield you. Instead, she was taking aim. My wife didn't deny it. She didn't apologize. She didn't even look away in shame. Instead, she said, "At least he listens to me." 4 years of marriage reduced to a single cruel sentence. I felt something break inside me, something fundamental and irreparable. The person I thought I knew was a stranger standing in my kitchen, wearing my wife's face. I packed my bags with trembling hands, each item a memory I couldn't bear to leave but couldn't stand to remember. Our wedding photo face down on the dresser, I couldn't look at it anymore. The smile seemed like mockery now. I took only what I needed to survive the next few days. The rest could burn for all I cared. But as I drove away from the house we'd painted together, planted gardens in, made love in, I noticed a black SUV following me. The same one I'd seen parked outside her sister's house countless times before. When I pulled over and looked inside the SUV, I saw Mark's face glaring back at me through the window. The sight of him took me back to where this all began, to that moment when my ordinary life first started to crack. I remember it clearly. I was folding towels when I realized something was off. It sounds stupid, but that's where it started. Tuesday afternoon. The dryer buzzer had gone off, and I was standing in the laundry room, folding the blue ones from Costco. The house was quiet, almost too quiet. That peculiar silence that feels like it's hiding something. The kind that makes your ears strain, searching for something you can't quite place. The sun was streaming through the window, casting long rectangles of light across the laundry room floor. Dust motes floated in the beams like tiny stars. The monotonous task of folding had put me in an almost meditative state. The mechanical movements of my hands, the warmth of the fabric, the faint scent of detergent, all of it so mundane, so safe. She was at work, or at least, that's what I believed. She'd kissed me goodbye that morning, her lips lingering on mine for just a moment. "Don't wait up," she'd said. "Big presentation today, might have to work late." I'd nodded, believing every word. Trusting. Always trusting. The towels were still warm from the dryer, almost hot to the touch. I remember rubbing the corners to flatten them like my mom used to. She was meticulous about housework, always saying the details matter. I'd roll my eyes as a kid, but here I was, smoothing towel corners with the same care she'd shown. Some lessons sink in deeper than we realize. My hands felt dry and rough against the soft fabric. The skin around my knuckles was cracked. Winter was always hard on my hands. I made a mental note, I need to buy a hand lotion. Something unscented, practical. Nothing that would linger or call attention to itself. That's where my mind was, on skin care and towel edges. Normal things. Safe things. The small domestic details that make up a life. I had no idea my whole life was about to shatter. No premonition, no sense of dread. Just an ordinary Tuesday afternoon that would become the dividing line in my life, before and after. Later that night, I was vacuuming under the couch cushions and found her hoodie. The gray one with the university logo fading after countless washes. The one she always wore when she went out with the girls. It was stuffed between the cushions, like she'd been sitting there and gotten too warm, then forgotten about it. I held it for a moment, breathing in her scent, that familiar mix of her perfume and something uniquely her. It had always been comforting before. Now it made my stomach clench with unexpected anxiety. I shook it out, thinking I'd hang it in the closet where it belonged. That's when something fell from the pocket. A small slip of paper drifted to the floor like a leaf falling from a tree. I bent down to pick it up, assuming it was just a grocery receipt or maybe a ticket stub from a movie. Something mundane and forgettable. But it wasn't. It was a receipt from Oak and Stone, that upscale restaurant downtown. The one with the stone fireplace and low lighting, where they serve those tiny portions on massive white plates. 2 entrees, 1 salmon at $32, 1 steak at $38. A bottle of wine, $42. Chocolate soufflé for dessert, $12. $78 total, plus tip. The tip amount was circled in blue ink, $18. Exactly 23%. I remember thinking that was oddly specific, like she'd calculated it precisely. Or maybe he had. The receipt was dated 8:42 p.m. I remember staring at that time stamp, feeling my world tilt slightly on its axis. I hadn't been there with her in over a year. Not since our anniversary last February. We used to go more often, back when we were dating and in the early years of our marriage. Back when we still made an effort. Back when special occasions felt special. My stomach dropped as I turned the paper over in my hands, reading and rereading the items listed. She told me she was working late that night. A client dinner, she'd said. Too important to reschedule. I believed her, had even made her a plate and left it in the fridge for when she got home. She'd thanked me the next morning, said she was too tired to eat when she got in. I'd thrown away the untouched food without comment. The receipt was from Thursday. Just 2 days ago. The night she came home smelling like mint gum and with her lipstick perfectly reapplied. The night she went straight to the shower before even saying hello. I stared at it for a long time, turning it over and over in my hands as if some other explanation might materialize if I just looked at it the right way. The paper grew damp in my palms. I realized I was sweating. I didn't jump to conclusions right away. I'm not that kind of person. I've never been jealous or suspicious by nature. Maybe that was my failing. Maybe I should have been paying closer attention all along. But I told myself it could be work-related. Maybe a client dinner she didn't want to discuss because of confidentiality. People in her line of work often had to wine and dine potential clients. That would explain the expensive meal, the wine. Maybe her sister, Amy. They used to meet there sometimes, back when they were still close. Before things got complicated between them. Back when they would spend hours talking over a bottle of wine, coming home tipsy, and laughing about inside jokes I wasn't privy to. But they hadn't done that in months, not since Amy's promotion had created a strange tension between them. Amy making partner at the firm while my wife was passed over, that had stung more than she'd admitted. But something about it didn't sit right in my gut. A feeling I couldn't quite name was taking root, spreading tendrils of unease through my chest. I folded the receipt carefully and put it in my wallet, unsure what I was going to do with it but knowing I needed to keep it. Evidence of something. I just wasn't sure what yet. That night, I waited for her to come home with a knot in my stomach. I moved through the motions of normalcy like an actor in a play. I made dinner like normal, dicing onions with mechanical precision, stirring the sauce with more force than necessary. The routine tasks that usually calmed me now felt like a charade, a performance for an audience of one, myself. I set the table, poured the wine, lit the candles. All the while, the receipt burned in my pocket like a hot coal. Didn't say a word when she walked in, 30 minutes late with a story about traffic. I watched her face as she saw the effort I'd made, surprise, then something like guilt flashing across her features before she composed them into a smile. It never reached her eyes. She barely touched her food, pushing the pasta around her plate while talking about her day. Mundane office stories that may or may not have been true, I had no way of knowing anymore. She seemed distracted, checking her phone more often than usual. Each time it lit up, she angled it away from me slightly. I pretended not to notice. After dinner, I asked, "Do you want to go for a walk?" She said, "I'm tired. Can we not?" I nodded. Then I pulled out the receipt and laid it on the table between us. "What's this?" I asked. She looked at it. Didn't even flinch. Just let out this annoyed breath through her nose. "Like this again. Are we really doing this?" she asked. I said, "Who are you with?" She was quiet. So I pushed. "Was it Amy?" She looked away. "Someone from work?" Still nothing. Then I said, "Is it someone I know?" That's when she finally looked up. "You don't want to know," she said. That's when the floor dropped out from under me. I could feel the heat in my chest. I stood there, frozen. Maybe if I didn't move, the truth wouldn't land. But I asked again, this time softer. "Who?" She mumbled it. Just one word. But it exploded in my head. "Mark." I blinked. "Mark who?" And then it hit me. Mark. Her sister's husband. Amy's husband. The man I baked birthday cupcakes with. The man who cried on my shoulder when his mom was in the hospital. The man I let wear my tie to his sister's engagement party. I stepped back. My hand went over my mouth. I said, "You're sleeping with Amy's husband?" She didn't deny it. Didn't even try to lie. All she said was, "At least he listens to me." I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just stared at her. That was somehow worse than yelling. I grabbed my keys and walked outside. I don't even remember grabbing my phone, but I must have because I called her mom. I don't know what I thought she'd say. I think I just wanted someone older to tell me this was insane, that I was right to be hurt, that it was okay to leave. Instead, I got silence. Then she said, "You brought this on yourself by being cold." I stood there in the driveway, phone in my hand, heart pounding. I just said, "Wow," and hung up. I walked back inside, went straight upstairs, and started packing. My hands were shaking so bad, I dropped a bottle of face wash into the sink. I didn't care. I threw clothes into a bag, no folding, just grabbing whatever I could see. Socks, shirts, the charger from my nightstand. She didn't follow me. She didn't try to stop me. When I walked out, she was still sitting at the kitchen table. I backed out of the driveway. It was dark. Streetlights glowing that ugly orange. I turned left, then right, then hit the freeway. That's when I noticed the black SUV behind me. I didn't panic at first when I noticed the SUV following me. Could have been anyone. Just another black vehicle on a dark road. But it took every single turn I did. Merged when I merged. Slowed when I slowed. It wasn't subtle anymore. They wanted me to know I was being followed. I got off the freeway and pulled into a Shell station. Parked near the edge. The SUV followed. That's when I felt the dread really hit. My mouth went dry. I sat there, frozen. Then the passenger window rolled down. It was Mark. He didn't look ashamed. He looked angry. His jaw was set in that stubborn way I'd seen at family gatherings when someone challenged him on politics. His eyes, those same eyes that had crinkled with laughter when we'd shared beers at backyard barbecues, were cold now. Hard. Like polished stones. Like I was the problem. Like I was the one who had crossed a line. I just stared at him, this man I'd welcomed into my family circle, the man who had shaken my hand at his wedding to my wife's sister and called me brother. The man who had sobbed openly at his mother's funeral while I stood beside him, a steady hand on his shoulder. I couldn't even form a sentence. My mouth opened but no sound came out. The disconnect between who I thought he was and who he really was felt like a physical blow. Then he said, his voice dripping with condescension, "You're not going to blow up our lives over this, are you? Our lives." As if I was somehow included in their betrayal. As if the three of us were in this together, co-conspirators in the destruction of my marriage, and I was the one threatening to upset the delicate balance. The presumption took my breath away. I wanted to laugh, but nothing came out. My throat felt like it was full of ash. After a moment, I managed to ask, "You followed me?" The question sounded hollow even to my own ears. Of course he had followed me. The bigger question, why, remained unspoken between us. He shrugged, a casual gesture that made me want to reach through the window and grab him by the collar. "You always overreact. I figured you'd try to make a scene." His tone was so dismissive, so condescending that I felt my face grow hot with anger. Always overreact? He was talking about me as if he knew me intimately, as if they'd discussed me in detail during their clandestine meetings. The thought made me sick. I stared at him. "You're sleeping with your wife's sister, and I'm the one making a scene?" He rolled his eyes. "Maybe you should ask yourself why she came to me in the first place." That's when I stepped out of the car. I walked right over to his window. I wasn't yelling, but my voice shook. "I let you into my life. My home. You cried to me about your mom, your marriage. You used me." He didn't say anything. Just sat there, smirking. "You're married to her sister," I said. "You do realize that, right?" His only response, "You think you're so perfect. Maybe if you actually paid attention to her, she wouldn't have strayed." I walked away. Didn't even finish the fight. I popped my trunk and started throwing stuff into the back seat. He sat there, watching. I slammed the trunk shut, got in my car, and drove. I didn't stop until I hit a rest stop an hour away. Parked in a corner, far from the lights, I sat there in the dark for what felt like forever. My hands on the steering wheel. Not crying. Not yelling. Just empty. I stayed at that rest stop until nearly 3 a.m. The gas station had closed. The only people around were truckers sleeping in their rigs and a janitor refilling the soap in the bathrooms. I didn't even get out of the car. I just sat there with my seat reclined, engine off, in complete silence. At some point, I realized I hadn't texted anyone. I had no one to call. My parents were long gone. My sister lived across the country, and we weren't close anymore. I thought about texting Amy, Mark's wife, but my fingers froze. What was I supposed to say? "Hey, your husband is sleeping with my wife. Just thought you should know." I didn't want to be the one to blow up someone else's life. Not that way. The next day, I checked into a cheap motel about 40 minutes from town. Stained carpet, scratchy sheets, no questions asked. Paid for 2 nights in cash. I stayed in bed all day, staring at the ceiling fan. I couldn't eat. Couldn't even watch TV. My body was still, but my brain wouldn't stop spinning. By the third morning, I decided I had to do something. Something that made me feel like I still had control. So I called Amy. She picked up on the second ring. Sounded tired. Maybe she had already suspected something. Maybe not. I said, "Amy, this is going to sound crazy, but I need to tell you something." She was quiet. I said, "It's about Mark and my wife." Long pause. Then, "Yeah. They've been seeing each other for a while. I found out 2 days ago. I left. I'm not going back." Another silence. Then she asked, "Are you sure?" "Yes," I said. I confronted her. She admitted it. "So did he?" "He followed me after I left." She just whispered, "Jesus." That was it. That's all she said. I didn't know what she was thinking. If she believed me. If she'd known all along. I waited, but she never asked for more details. Just said, "Thanks for telling me," and hung up. 2 hours later, I got a text. Not from Mark, but from my wife. "You didn't have to tell her. You're ruining everything." I didn't respond. What was there to say to someone who could still make this about her pain, her inconvenience? Someone who could betray not just me but her own sister, and still somehow cast herself as the victim? Later that night, Amy called again. She was calm, too calm. She asked if I could meet her just to talk. She didn't sound angry. She sounded focused, like she'd already made up her mind about something. We met in a diner off the highway, the kind that never closes. It smelled like grease and coffee and decades of cigarette smoke that had seeped into the vinyl booths despite the no smoking signs that had been up for years. The waitress looked tired, her eyes barely registering us as she slid menus across the sticky tabletop. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow that made everyone look sickly. Amy sat across from me, wearing the same flannel she wore to our last family barbecue. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, dark circles under her eyes. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. I wondered if I looked the same to her, hollow-eyed and haunted. The resemblance between her and my wife had always been striking, but now it was painful to look at her and see echoes of the woman who had betrayed me. She ordered black coffee. I got the same. Neither of us touched the menus. Food was the furthest thing from my mind, and I suspected she felt the same. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unasked questions and unspoken pain. Finally, she broke it. "How long do you think it's been going on?" Her voice was steady, surprisingly calm for someone whose world had just imploded. I admired her composure, even as I struggled to maintain my own. I shook my head, the motion making me dizzy. I hadn't been eating much. "I don't know. Maybe months?" The words felt like gravel in my throat. "Maybe a year?" The possibility that this betrayal had been happening for so long, right under my nose, made me feel physically ill. How many dinners had we all shared together, smiling across the table while they exchanged secret glances? How many family gatherings had been tainted by their deception? She nodded. Didn't even blink. Like she'd already come to the same conclusion. Like she'd already done the math and calculated exactly how long her husband and my wife had been making fools of us both. Then she leaned in and said something that made my blood run cold. "I put a camera in the garage last year. Motion activated. He doesn't know." I stared at her. "What are you saying?" She looked at me dead in the eyes. "I have footage." She slid her phone across the table. I didn't want to look. I really didn't, but I did. It was him and her in Amy's garage. Late at night, kissing, touching, laughing. I almost threw up. She took the phone back. I wasn't sure if I'd imagined it. I didn't want to believe it. I covered my face with my hands. "Why didn't you confront him?" "Because I wanted proof. And now I have it." She sat back. Calm as ever. Too calm. "I'm going to divorce him," she said. "But first, I'm going to destroy them both." I asked what she meant. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Let's just say, I know how to hit them where it hurts." I should have been scared. But in that moment, I felt something else. Not revenge, not satisfaction. Just a weird kind of peace. Like, I wasn't crazy. Like, someone else finally saw it too. Amy stood up, threw a 20 on the table. "You'll hear from me soon," she said. And then she walked out. 3 days went by. I didn't hear from Amy. I kept thinking maybe she'd changed her mind. Maybe she decided to keep it quiet, deal with it privately. Handle it with the same quiet dignity she seemed to approach everything. I almost hoped she would. Not for their sakes, I couldn't bring myself to care about protecting them anymore, but for hers. For the kids. For what was left of her family. It had been 4 days since our meeting at the diner. 4 days of silence. 4 days of waiting for the other shoe to drop. 4 days of jumping every time my phone buzzed, wondering if it was Amy with an update or my wife with more accusations or maybe even Mark with some pathetic attempt at justification. Besides, I wasn't sure how much more fallout I could take. My body felt hollowed out, like someone had scooped out everything that mattered and left just enough to keep me functioning. I'd lost weight, my clothes hung loose on my frame. I couldn't remember the last time I'd had a full night's sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together. Imagined conversations they might have had about me. Wondered if they'd laughed at my obliviousness. The motel room had become both prison and sanctuary. I'd fallen into a strange routine: wake up, stare at the ceiling, shower, walk to the vending machine for something I wouldn't eat, return to bed, try to read but end up staring at the same page for hours, watch mindless TV until my eyes burned, sleep fitfully, repeat. The housekeepers had stopped knocking. They just left fresh towels outside my door. Then on the 4th day, everything exploded. It wasn't a slow burn or a gradual revelation. It was nuclear, devastating, immediate. The kind of explosion that leaves nothing but ash and questions in its wake. It started with a phone call from my ex. Her name on my screen was jarring. I'd changed it from baby to her full name the day after I left, a small act of emotional self-preservation. She never called me, not even when I left. Just let me walk out and never asked where I went. Not once had she tried to find out if I was safe, if I had somewhere to sleep, if I was okay. So when her name popped up on my screen, I froze, my thumb hovering over the green button. Part of me wanted to let it go to voicemail. A larger part needed to know what could possibly be important enough for her to break her silence. I answered, but didn't speak first. She said, "What the hell did you do?" I blinked. "What are you talking about?" Her voice was low. Angry, but shaky. Amy sent a group email to the whole family with video attachments. I sat down on the edge of the motel bed. "What?" She sent footage, she hissed, of me and Mark to her parents. My parents, his sister, everyone, even some people from church. I didn't say anything. She went on, my mom's having a panic attack. Dad won't talk to me. Mark's been locked in the bathroom for an hour. I didn't know what she expected me to say. Then she said it. You did this. I laughed. Just once, quiet and bitter. You cheated on your husband with your sister's husband, and I did this. You told her, she growled. You started all of this. You started it the first time you touched him, I said. You just didn't think anyone would find out. She hung up. Less than an hour later, I got a message from Amy. Just 2 words. It's done. That night, I checked Facebook for the first time in a week. Mark's page was gone. My ex's profile was still up, but stripped bare. No photos, no status. Just a blank banner and a new relationship status. It's complicated. Under that were dozens of comments. Some vague, some angry. One said, family first, another just posted a vomiting emoji. I felt sick. Not because I was sorry, but because this was the part no one talks about. The part after. The part where your life is in pieces and you're technically free, but still feel trapped in the wreckage. The next morning, I checked out of the motel, drove back into town, but not home. I stayed with a coworker who'd offered her guest room. She didn't ask questions, just handed me a set of clean sheets and said, take your time. By the end of the week, my ex showed up at her house. I don't know how she found me. Maybe she checked my phone records. Maybe she just guessed. But when I opened the door, there she was. Pale. Sweating. Eyes bloodshot. I lost my job, she said. I didn't answer. They saw the video. HR said it's a reputation issue. They don't want the drama. I didn't say a word. Then she stepped forward. Please. Can we talk? Just talk. I stood in the doorway, blocking her. She said, he's not talking to me. He says I ruined his life. I looked her right in the eye. You did. She stepped back like I slapped her. You don't have to be cruel. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move. I just said, you ruined mine too. The difference is I didn't deserve it. Then I closed the door. She didn't knock again. 2 weeks passed. In that time, I got a new phone number. I filed for divorce. I cleaned out the joint account. And took exactly half. Nothing more, nothing less. The woman I was staying with, Trina, helped me pack what little I'd left behind. I never set foot in the house again. She went with me. My ex wasn't there, but the place looked ransacked. Pictures gone. Cabinets open. Like someone was tearing through the past, trying to find something to blame. I grabbed my photo albums, a few old books, my grandmother's quilt. That was it. Then I left that town. But before I did, I sent one final message. Not to my ex. Not to Mark. To Amy. I wrote, you didn't have to do it like that, but thank you. She never replied. A month later, Trina called me into the living room. You need to see this, she said. She had her laptop open. It was a GoFundMe page set up by Mark's sister. Help Mark get back on his feet. Single dad, no support, no job. There was a paragraph about how he was betrayed by people he trusted, about how he was trying to recover from the trauma of public humiliation. The goal was $10,000. It had maybe $60 in it. Below that, someone had commented. Tell the whole story, Mark. Like how you slept with your wife's sister. I closed the laptop. I thought I'd feel satisfied. I didn't. But I wasn't done yet. I'd been quiet too long. I'd let people say things, assume things, guess at the truth. I was tired of staying out of it. So I posted my own story. Not on Facebook. Not with my name. But I wrote it all out. Every ugly detail. I made sure it landed where it needed to, a community page that a lot of our neighbors and mutual friends read. No names. But, everyone local knew who it was about. It went viral. People started talking. Not the way I expected. Some still tried to defend him. Some blamed me for airing dirty laundry. But most they saw the truth. Mark deleted his GoFundMe. My ex deleted her social media for good. Amy filed for full custody of their kids. Then one day, I got a letter mailed, handwritten. No return address. It was from Mark. Just a few lines. You think you've won, but all you've done is make me a villain. I never meant for it to happen that way. She needed something you wouldn't give her. We were lonely. You left, but you didn't have to ruin us. I didn't write back. I didn't need to because I knew exactly what they were now, and I knew what I had been. A fool for not seeing it sooner, for making excuses. For letting things slide, one small thing at a time, until my whole life was burning down. But, I wasn't a fool anymore. And, neither were the people watching. The last I heard, my ex had moved in with her mother. The same woman who once told me, I brought it on myself. That part still stings. I made mistakes too. I let things fester. I didn't speak up. I let her walk all over my silence. But not anymore. I don't miss her. Not the way you're supposed to miss someone you shared your life with. I don't miss her laugh or her touch or the way she looked in the morning light. I don't miss our rituals or our inside jokes or the plans we had made for the future. What I miss is the certainty I once had, the foundation I thought was solid beneath my feet. What I miss is the version of myself who believed in us, who trusted blindly, who thought love meant swallowing your hurt and keeping the peace. I miss the man I was before I knew how easy it was to be deceived by the people closest to you. I miss the version of myself who didn't flinch when someone said forever or I promise or trust me. That man was perhaps naive, too willing to overlook warning signs, too eager to smooth over conflicts rather than face them head on. But he was hopeful. He believed in second chances and happy endings and the basic goodness of people. He believed that if you loved someone enough, it would be enough. But that man's gone now. In his place is someone more cautious, more guarded. Someone who looks for exits in every room and double-checks every declaration of affection for hidden motives. Someone who knows that sometimes silence isn't peaceful, it's where the most dangerous lies grow. And if she ever wonders where I went, where that trusting man she married disappeared to, she can ask the silence she left behind when she chose not to explain, not to apologize, not to fight for what we had built. It's the only thing that ever really listened to her, anyway. That silence is her legacy, the empty space where our future should have been. Sometimes I think I can still hear it echoing in the corners of this new life I'm building, but each day it grows a little fainter, a little less defining. One day, I know, it will be gone completely. And on that day, perhaps I'll be ready to start again. Not to find what I lost, that's gone forever, but to create something new, with stronger foundations and clearer boundaries. Something built on honesty rather than convenience, on true connection rather than the appearance of it. Something that can withstand storms and secrets and the inevitable disappointments of human love. Something real. And this time, I'll know exactly what I'm looking for.